Hello and welcome to NCAA, and this is Week 14 review. We're going to look at what happened during Week 14. I'm John.
I'm Bobby.
And I'm Josh.
And we're glad you're here with us. First of all, a thank you to Western Kentucky. And why is that? Because they knocked Marshall, even though Marshall had creeped into the top 25, and everybody knew they didn't deserve to be there. With this shootout of 67-66 in overtime, Western Kentucky knocked them out of it.
That really is normally the problem with teams like that. They have this high-scoring offense, but they don't have defenses of any kind.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they were, it looked like a basketball score, but, at the end of the day, I think it all just worked out for the best.
I think so as well, yeah. I'm sure Marshall doesn't feel that way, but let's talk about, let's again go by conferences. Okay. We'll start with the Pac-12. First of all, the Civil War, which right now is, looks pretty lopsided. Oregon won that handily against Oregon State.
Right.
And then probably the bigger surprise to me was Stanford-UCLA.
Yeah.
UCLA is, they've shown some brilliance this season, and then they've shown some, major mess-ups in 31-10 against Stanford.
And Stanford really hadn't been playing well. UCLA was on the upswing at home. I don't understand it.
I can't
and
figure.
They really did not want to lose this game.
No.
They just completely fell apart. They didn't have any answers.
They had everything to play for. Stanford really didn't have anything to play for.
That's right, yeah. You would think they would have shown up. Arizona State at Arizona. Now, this was a really, good battle in the desert. It really was a good fight. Arizona pulled that thing out against Arizona State. Rich Rodriguez, his Cardinals, they won this thing. It looked pretty strong.
I didn't see this coming. I thought Arizona State would beat Arizona, but so far, Arizona was the only team to beat Oregon, so
what's
interesting
about this matchup to me is you look at Arizona State, I think defense, and you have Arizona with offense, and it looks like offense won out. And that makes it interesting because I was expecting to see Arizona State have to play Oregon, have a defense to really go up tough against that Oregon offense, but now it's just going to be an offensive showdown.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in the next video because I think offense, it's better to have offense to beat offense.
Yeah. Well, maybe so. Arizona definitely has that. Wilson got 178 yards on the ground there and a few touchdowns. Let's move to the Mountain West and talk about that. Wow. Okay, first of all, Boise State was going up against Utah State. Everybody was thinking, this is going to be a real battle. It's going to be a tough
at home, so it was
and expect to be close. And then Utah State starts mouthing off, saying that Boise can't even score 21 points on them. And Boise almost did that in the first quarter.
They scored 20.
Yeah, and so, by halftime, this game was already over, 34-9.
Well, the thing was, Utah State, they were the #1 defense in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
And they were, by stats, they were one of the #1 in the nation. When you don't play anybody, kind of like Marshall, and then you do go against a team, I'm not saying Boise's great, but a team that's definitely better.
Well, Jay Ajayi, he had a great game.
5 touchdowns.
Yeah, over 200 yards. Yeah.
But what happened? Wasn't this a 4th-string quarterback or something for Utah State?
It was. Utah State's injured.
That definitely hurts
I
them.
think almost 11 players on their roster have been injured this season.
I'll take Virginia.
So, and then Colorado State at Air Force. Wow, Colorado State found out that while facing that triple option, it's just not a fun
because
thing to
Colorado State's head coach had jinked on Boise about losing to Air Force.
Yeah.
Earlier on.
Yeah.
And now Colorado State
gotta watch what you say.
Former Alabama coach, right?
And Alabama running back.
All right, now let's move to the Big 12. We had Baylor at Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, we thought this was a simple game.
Sure.
But no, Texas Tech makes it a game, 48-46. But Baylor does win the thing, but it still sort of makes you wonder.
Sure.
Baylor's only loss this season is to West Virginia.
Right.
And that, to me, casts a shadow on their entire season.
Sure.
Otherwise they would be up there in playoff contention.
Every
and all
team's
that. Nobody even thinks about that.
Every team's allowed to have 1 or 2 games in the season where they struggle. TCU struggled against Kansas. And so in that conference, and Baylor struggled against Texas Tech, but they both won.
And Bryce Petty got hurt in the 3rd quarter.
Yes.
You would have thought they would have pulled away by then, but maybe Texas Tech.
But it wasn't Bryce Petty's fault they weren't away. It was Baylor's defense couldn't stop them. And they couldn't stop TCU either, but they still won because their offense was good.
Well, it's sort of funny because Baylor's technically the leader of the Big 12, even though TCU is ranked a lot higher nationally.
They're like 3.
Because they beat them, right?
Yes,
Right.
that's
But
right.
it's not really that big of a surprise because TCU's the better team. They really are. Their schedule going into Baylor, they've gone against 3 really tough teams, and they lose to Baylor at Baylor. But then Baylor loses to West Virginia, and TCU smokes. So it's kind of I'm pretty sure.
Well, and that one, that was one of those ones where, TCU, everybody's expecting them to be now in the playoff picture.
Right,
sure.
The number 4 team in there. They went and beat Texas handily this year, 48-10.
That was impressive.
Yeah, very impressive, and much more impressive than Baylor over Texas Tech. So it makes them look good. They should be in there. We'll see. That doesn't come out till tomorrow, but that's what everybody's expecting. All right, let's talk about the Big Ten. Really, probably the only big game in that one. Ohio State won theirs with no problem against Michigan. But Minnesota at Wisconsin, what turned out to be, Minnesota, they're
a good team.
Gophers. They fight. They really did put up a fight here. It was pretty close most of the time, most of the way through, but Wisconsin pulled away at the end,
Gordon had another
34.
good rushing game.
He did.
Sure.
So
Sure did.
Marcus Mariota is the Heisman front runner.
Yeah.
I'd say Melvin Gordon's second, and then Amari Cooper's third in that race.
Probably so. We'll see that one as well, but that one's coming to an end too as the seasons are closing here. ACC. Wow. What? Talk about the Hokies.
Yeah, I didn't give much hope in this game.
Yeah.
But that's just the way the season's gone. When they have to rise up to the occasion, they seem to rise up. But again, when you lose to a bunch of,
It's somewhat inexplicable. I mean, what on earth? I mean, lose to Wake Forest the week before, come in and beat Virginia, who had creamed Miami the week before that. Wow.
It just shows you that there's potential there, and they're a young team. So if the coaching staff can get them together, I think there's a lot of hope for the upcoming year. But they just got to find a way to.
My biggest question, really, for Virginia Tech is, could they get rid of the turkey sound in the game? It's just really obnoxious.
It is the most obnoxious.
That's what got them the win.
Oh, that's what got them the win. Okay. All right, Florida State, against Florida, a weak Florida team, and Florida looked like they were doing it again. They looked like they might be able to do something in this game, but no. In the end, Florida State pulls it out once again, 24-19.
That interception pick six changed the swing of the game. It was 9-0. It could have been, 15-16-0.
Yeah.
But that changed it, and momentum all shifted.
It gave Florida State
even in the second half, Florida State didn't just pull away.
No, they didn't.
just
They didn't dominate it.
Jameis Winston.
Yes, 3. What was it? 3 in the first quarter?
3 in the first quarter, which is the first time any NCAA Division I team has ever thrown 3 interceptions. Quarterback
In the
ever
first
thrown 3
quarter.
interceptions
Yeah.
in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean, now I want to say something real quick. It is not Jameis' fault. His offensive line is the worst offensive line. I don't know if that might be one of the reasons they're having so many struggles this year. They cannot not get Jameis hit. He was basically limping off the field every single play. It was pretty.
But when you
sad
have
to
Nick
watch.
O'Leary at tight end,
Oh my
and
God. Nick O'Leary was-
he's got
he was
weapons. That,
beastly in that game. My goodness, that guy could pull down those. Okay, how about Georgia Tech at Georgia? Surprise, surprise. Well, we talked about that they had to watch out for this triple option, but it really, ultimately, was it Georgia Tech or Georgia blowing that
Georgia
game?
blowing it from them. You don't fumble
Oh my
twice
goodness.
at the 1 yard line about to score and win a game.
Yeah, Georgia really floods out.
give credit to these defenders. You make that
you
play,
did.
and
You did.
that's,
And they were. Georgia Tech did make
I'm not
the
really giving
defensive
credit.
plays.
I'm giving credit to the offensive running backs for not holding on to the ball and fumbling it themselves.
people are projecting Georgia Tech, even if they lose to Florida State, to go to a larger bowl, potentially the Orange Bowl. I would hate to match up against that triple option.
I don't think they'll make it to a big bowl.
Although, 30
I don't
days.
think they're going to make it to a big bowl because there's Wisconsin, there's Ohio State, there's teams that are better than they are.
Okay,
that in the playoff picture would
if they
put that
beat
into
Florida
motion.
State, though, what's that?
If they beat Florida State,
then they would go for sure.
They'll make it to a big bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge for them.
Florida
But that
State.
was an overtime, 30-24.
Yeah.
They did pull the thing out, and wow.
That was a big. I mean, Paul Johnson has kept Georgia Tech in it. That was. I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat necessarily, but fans are getting tired of keep getting beat by Georgia, so it was a big deal for them to win.
Yeah.
I mean,
At Georgia too, and they credit. There was 18 seconds left on the clock
Right.
when Georgia took the lead, and somehow Georgia Tech gets a 52-yard field goal.
how the heck did Georgia let them drive with 19
That's-
seconds?
that's
It's a
terrible.
triple option.
But the quarterback is not that good at throwing.
No, no.
But you credit Georgia Tech. You hang around, and that's what happens.
That is what happens. SEC, we'll finish with them.
Okay.
Missouri, they somehow cemented their way into the East.
Do you know
we
Georgia's
went over
disappointed
Arkansas.
with
We
that?
talked about, did Arkansas have what it really took? And Missouri somehow figures
They did.
out how to win.
What was
the game.
Arkansas did have what it took to beat them, but they didn't.
Well, this was one of the rare instances where the SEC East actually beat the SEC West. Because, I mean, and mind you, Arkansas is not even necessarily a good SEC West team,
yeah.
but for the most part, I mean, they did beat LSU. Or last week,
Yes,
Arkansas did
beat LSU. Yeah,
handle
they
it.
sure did.
And I mean, other than Auburn, you know, I'm just impressed by Missouri. Again, second year in a row winning the East, second year in the conference. You got to give them credit. I mean,
You do have to give them
Third year in
credit.
the conference.
Even though they got creamed by Georgia during the season, you do have to give.
They
hung
got
in
creamed
there.
by Georgia when Georgia had Todd Gurley and
Yeah.
Rice and those running backs.
Sure.
That's a different story.
It is. It is a different story, but that is their, you know, that's just huge. Okay, the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Wow. So we did talk about this,
But we thought this would happen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We thought that Ole Miss, and it's really that Ole Miss defense. It's sort of like Alabama's defense when they were playing Mississippi State. They just wouldn't let Dak Prescott do anything.
He's just not a very good quarterback.
We're back to that again.
Here we are.
Well, 31-17 it's a pretty solid win right there.
This had to be a deflating loss because Mississippi State brought everything. They knew that this is their chance
Yeah.
to get, because if they win this game and then lose in the
That's right.
SEC, they probably would
Oh, it's
still go.
huge. And if they had won that one, you know, even in Alabama's mind, as they went into the Iron Bowl, that, you know, Mississippi State, you know, they've only got the one loss to us. And, wow. But yeah, Ole Miss, congrats. Pull that one off. Big.
I think Ole Miss has got to be kicking themselves
Oh, think
because
about the whole state of Mississippi right now, though. I mean, they got to be reeling because they had so many hopes. And now for both of the teams, it's sort of blown. Yeah.
always.
All right, so the final game.
Mississippi State could end up in a big bowl too. It'll be interesting how the
They
playoff.
can make it into
It will
but not the
interesting.
playoff. The
We'll
playoff
have
is
to jump on
done.
that one. Yeah, that's right. Playoff, they're out. Iron Bowl, you know, once again, heading this time going to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Huge game. That whole kick six business and Alabama wanting revenge. I don't know about revenge. Every year is a revenge game, it seems. But what a battle. I mean, I thought the first half, as an Alabama fan, I was fearful. I thought, oh my goodness.
I thought
Auburn is running all over the place. They're throwing all over the place. They're doing whatever they want to do. And Alabama was struggling. You know, Sims throwing the interceptions.
The difference in this game, one player, and that player is Amari.
Cooper.
And I will say
229 yards.
I will say it's one coach.
Oh,
Lane
Nick Saban.
Kiffin.
Without Nick Saban. Nick
And the
Saban is an
offense.
awesome coach.
No,
I
it's not
agree with
Lane
you.
Kiffin. If you watch Amari Cooper, for some reason, so I also blame it on Auburn's lack of defensive coaching.
Well,
But it's not double coverage.
their defensive coach got fired.
The whole
Yeah,
entire
after this
game.
game.
Yeah.
The whole entire game. He's alone, one-on-one. He's able just to get right by the dude every single time, every single play.
They're still putting, how many offensive yards? They almost put up 600 yards of offense again. Credit Lane Kiffin. And just, I mean, there was a picture on the sideline of Lane Kiffin saying touchdown before they called the play, before the play was run to Amari Cooper, because he knew it was going to be a touchdown. It's going to get credit where credit is due.
No,
I mean, when your whole
I'm not
team
giving any credit.
When your whole
I'm
team is
sorry.
5-star recruits, if you can't do something with it, then
Yeah.
you're in trouble.
Is this offense not a lot more prolific than previous years?
Previous years, they still won every game.
And they had 5-star talent.
Right.
Well-
but they didn't.
They weren't exciting. This is, I mean, 75-yard bombs.
There not too many bombs in the past, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're throwing to Amari Cooper, throw the bombs. Just toss it out there. But yeah, so that was a huge win for Alabama, which cements them in. You know, they're number one in the polls.
Even if
number
they
one.
lost to Missouri, they would still make it.
Yeah, which is very unlikely. But okay, but that's
Missouri making.
That's our Rivals Week wrap up on everything that went on, and so join us for Week 15 preview.